This is my experiments with jelly plate or gel printing. So I bought this from an art store online. It's art from Artly Obsessed. It's a size 20 cm by 25 cm. I'm just removing the protective plastic sheet. Here I am transferring a chalk pastel image drawing that I've done on some newsprint. As you can see, not everything transfers perfectly. The lines needed to be enhanced if I want to do it again. Here I've added some more acrylic paints on the side and onto the figure as well. So now after letting it dry, I'm adding the white acrylic as the protective pull off layer. Now I'm placing the sheet of paper over it and using a parent to fully press down the paper onto the gel plate. I'm putting some heavy books on top of the paper and the gel plate to make sure it's pressed down properly and leave it for maybe 10 to 15 minutes. Remove the plate and try to lift up the image with the paper from the gel plate. This is the first disaster, which is actually not so bad. We still get pieces of paper sticking to the gel plate. Probably the paint has not dried yet when I applied the white layer. I've rolled the layer of black onto the gel plate with black acrylic. Next, I'm using one of my old lino cut plates with an image of a figure, and I'm trying to see what I can get out of it. As you can see, the lino cut lifted off part of the acrylic from the gel plate, leaving a negative image. So I'm just adding some paints, acrylic paints, and in this case actually it's a uh, green silk screen ink bulb, which I'm trying to just experiment with. I'm just playing around with adding some acrylic here and there, white acrylic. Now I'm trying the plate. The whole idea is before you put another layer on, you need to make sure the earlier layers are dry. Now I'm just taking some chalk pastels and rubbing it onto a rubbing it on to the newsprint and see where I'll transfer it over onto the gel plate. Rub down the pastel chalk onto the gel plate. Hopefully you'll get something done over transferred. Just placing some chalk dust onto the gel plate here for some more texture. Let it dry before I put a layer of white over the plate and the image that's first few layers of the image. So here we go again with a piece of paper on top of the fairly wet white acrylic layer, and I'm rubbing it down. Then we placed heavy books on top of it and let it sit there for 10 to 20 minutes to let it fully dry. Time to peel off the paper and see what we get. Yikes. As you can see, the paper keeps sticking to keeps getting pulled onto the and stick onto the plate itself, which is not a good thing. This is my first attempt at gel printing, so I think the ink is not dry yet. The paint is not dry. Ooh, that was bad. Right off. I'll probably have to just peel it off and chuck it away. Just no saving it. There you go. Ah, ugh. But for whatever that's been printed on, paper that's been printed on the paper is actually quite interesting if you want it, if you like it, this kind of disaster uh, effect. Yeah, I'm just transferring another chalk pastel image onto the gel plate. It's just a portrait of some of the imaginary person. Just adding more acrylic paint to fill up the space, or covering up parts of the chalk drawing. It's because chalk is on another layer, on the first layer, so this paint can go over it as a second layer. I'm just using some flesh tint acrylic. You must know this is all first time experimenting with gel printing, so I'm just learning as I go along. Just just adding some more charcoal onto the plate directly, see what happens, to fill up the some details. I'm using one of my butterfly lino cuts. I'm gonna ink them and I'm gonna see whether I can transfer it onto the gel plate. First one, I'm actually gonna rub some green silk screen ink, and then I'm gonna try and lift off the butterfly image out of it. The ink lifted up onto the plate. The lino plate. I just need a little stem on the top there. I'm just using a palette knife to remove some of the paint. Just using the hairdryer to speed up the drying of the paint, of the acrylic and the silk screen ink. As you can see, I've did a black lino print on directly onto the gel plate from my lino cut of the butterfly. So now we're gonna add a layer of white again, white acrylic, and then yes, we just cover it up, place the paper, and put some heavy paper books on it. The paper really thick, really difficult to peel off. I don't know why. A slightly more successful pull, but I wouldn't call it perfect. Don't do this at home using a cutter to make, get the paper off the gel plate. You might just damage your plate. Not too bad for a second print. The portrait's a bit subtle. Not too bad for a third print. The second print was a disaster, remember? Trying a new one, new uh, technique. Just added some dark blue acrylic onto the plate. So I've written Death and Taxes on the to a paper with wax crayons, and now I rub it down onto the acrylic, the fairly wet acrylic that's on the gel plate, and I lift it up. So it's the Death and Taxes. It's basically wherever there's a text is, the inks remains onto the plate, and the background it's removed. We're just experimenting with all sorts of, see what else we can do with it. Remove some ink, extra ink from the plate, and we shall see. You can see what I'm going to do next. Probably self-explanatory. I'm using a non-slip mat to get some texture onto the yellow layer. I'm just inking another lino cut that I've had previously. This time of fishes, and you see what happens. I think I'm doing it in red. Transferring the image down onto the middle there. So I just pasted this down. All lino cut of the fishes. Now it's some chalk. I'm just making like an X. Get some texture onto this, rubbing onto a newsprint, and we're going to transfer it over onto the plate. Adding some details with a Posca marker, which are pretty cool. Really, they are like acrylic markers, so it works well on gel plates. For the review, hopefully this works better. I suspect I need better paper and for this kind of printing. So there you go, Death in Texas. What do you guys think? I'm just swinging it just to play around with with various medium and see what we can get with it. What can I do with this gel plate? So it's all experimenting and trial and error really. So this is like a using a user crayon, wax crayon to trans onto a paper and lift off the background and leave the line work on the gel plate itself. Now I'm just adding some colors as a second layer. Really not sure why the paper keeps sticking onto the plate. So either the first layers are not dry yet or the paper is just crap. If any of you guys know what I'm doing wrong, please leave some comments below. Thanks.